Right, so I'm here with Ryan Fisher, who has this Kickstarter comic he created, Torchlight Lullaby. And before I was speaking to, is that your wife? Your wife at the table?
Yes.
I was speaking to your wife, and she was telling me what the inspiration was for the book.
Mm-hmm.
What do you consider the inspiration?
The inspiration as far as the influences or why I made it.
Why you made it?
So I made the book, kind of a downer, honestly.
Yeah.
I made the book after my father passed.
Right.
I'm a very natural insomniac. So it was a lot of laying awake at night and just being miserable, honestly.
Right.
And because I've always created comics and stories, I just tried to create a story in my head to kind of distract myself. And normally when I would do that in the past, it would be a different story every night or, whatever. But for some reason, I kept building on Torchlight every night. So I did that for about 3 weeks, a month, to the point where I was sitting there like eating lunch one day and it's like, God, I got to make this one. Like, this one works.
Right.
So, what has been good about it is I've been doing comics for about 7 years now. 5 years was just, absolute obscurity. This one is starting to get some traction for me, which is wonderful because it's kind of taking the worst moment of my life, which was losing my dad, and turn it into one of the best moments for me creatively. So it's become I think it's a very cool way to honor him.
And the book is about how children deal with loss? Or
yeah.
is that an oversimplification?
Well, so it's supposed to read like an adventure story for most people until you realize at the end what it's truly about.
Okay.
And how I constructed it is, the classic hero's journey, like,
Right.
Odyssey, that kind of vibe. So if you looked at a hero's journey, which I kind of have memorized from years of doing comics and English classes and everything else, but when I lost my dad, I was doing research on like the stages of grief, and you just kind of learn that stuff. And it dawned on me how well they match up. If you go through a hero's journey, a lot of those stages are the same as the denial, the anger, So what I did is it was a challenge I had this idea for a story. What happens if you tried to mash those two things together? And that is the progression the story takes.
That's really cool. I've never seen those two things put together. It makes perfect sense once you say it. But I guess that's kind of what makes the hero's journey so universal, because it is based on something that everyone has to deal with. Everyone has to deal with loss and grief.
Yeah, and it ends with acceptance.
Yeah.
Or that's the resolution.
Right. So what is the so obviously it's anyone can read any book, but what is the target age for the book?
So I call it an all-ages book because it is. There is no profanity in it. I mean, it's not graphic violence. So, I mean, it is a true all-ages book. But I grew up loving Dark Crystal and Labyrinth and Neverending Story, and where all-ages movies could still kind of scare the crap out of you as a kid, And, who will ever forget the first time I saw the Skeksis? So I wanted to do a non-sugar-coated all-ages book because one of my things is I feel like kids aren't challenged enough, that they can handle so much more than we give them credit for. But along that line, ultimately, what I wrote it for was my dad died of cancer, but it was the second time he got it. So the thought was, what happened if he died the first time? And I was 8 when he got it the first time. So it's kind of the book I would hand to my 8-year-old self, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. I was actually talking to your wife about how, a lot of times I think what ends up happening is I think we forget what it was like to be a kid. I think we end up underestimating our kid selves. And recently, thanks to Netflix, I was watching the Neverending Story.
Oh, yeah.
And sorry, spoilers for a really, really old movie. The part where the horse gets stuck in the mud.
You're sinking! Come on! Turn around! You have to now! Come on! Artex! Fight against the sadness, Artex! Artex, please. You're letting the sadness of the swamps get to you. You have to try. You have to care.
Like, that is super depressing.
Do you know the backstory on that?
I don't think I do, or if I do, it slipped my mind.
The horse actually died. That's a stunt that went wrong. That is completely real.
That is extra sad. That is the exact opposite of. So it's like the exact opposite of the Christian Nairn, Hodor panel yesterday, where this guy came up and asked him, "Hey, can you record a message for my mom to let her know that you're alive for real?" So this is like the exact opposite of that.
That's nice.
But yeah, I mean, another thing, again with the Neverending Story is the enemy being the absence of everything.
Tell us more.
Near my home, there used to be a beautiful lake, but then it was gone.
Did the lake dry up?
No, it just wasn't there anymore. Nothing was there anymore, not even a dried up lake.
A hole?
A hole would be something. No, it was nothing. And it got bigger and bigger. First, there was no lake anymore, and then finally...
Yes.
That's pure terror. That's pure terror.
It is.
And again, that's in a kid's a story, and we were okay. We're well enough adjusted.
Well, not only that, but look at, it's very relevant now, but Stranger Things.
Yeah.
That is, honestly, if you think back what it was like to be a kid, that hits it closer than what most media portrays it.
Right.
And I think that's why it's become the hit it has.
Yeah.
Is even though you may not consciously remember it or think of it that way when you think of being a kid, you swore, you hid things from your parents. Everything was a huge evil. That's why it's such a big deal.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing with kids is everything is larger than life because metaphorically, because physically everything is bigger than you. So it's a lot. It's a lot. True. It's a lot scary. So within the book itself, what types of things does the main character have to deal with? Obviously, you don't have to get too spoilery, but just some examples.
So I think the biggest thing she has to deal with is realizing what the ultimate issue is. So the whole book is set up where she gets trapped inside of her dreams. And while she's trapped there, the Shiverwings, which kind of are representing like the classic Grim Reaper or whatever it is, but they're the thing from her nightmare, and they start appearing like when she's in school, and she seems to be the only one who sees them.
Right.
So the book is mostly her trying to figure out. Bless you, man.
Thank you.
Is trying to figure out just honestly what's going on and the realization that she's not processing her grief.
Yeah, I think that's another. You're really hitting on a lot of really great things with this book because that's another thing that I know I dealt with really, really badly at first is dreams. And the fact that your dreams seem so real.
Yeah.
And I think that as a kid, as you transition into understanding that, it can be really terrifying. Like, you wake up, sometimes it happens as an adult as well, but, you wake up and you're like, was that a dream or was it real? And as a kid where you're still learning the rules of reality, hey, maybe something did come through my dreams or maybe something I dreamed of, it's happening, maybe it's prophetic or something.
Well, I think that's where the monster under the bed comes from.
Yeah.
I think that's where that genuine fear comes from, is that not realizing where the line's drawn.
So is there anything else that you want to share either about the book or future projects or anything you'd like to share?
Not especially. I would say that I do have another book coming. It's not Torchlight related. Torchlight is a one and done. I'd say the next book I am doing is trying to take a crack again at the all ages kind of murder, mystery, suspense genre that you haven't seen since the Hardy Boys, things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try taking a stab at that. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay. So before we go, I just you said something really interesting so in comics, one of the biggest problems they have is having things be one and done or having things end. That's one thing I like about Image. A lot of their comics do end.
Yes.
So let me ask you, did you have to go through some of the stages of grief with letting your character go, letting your story go?
You know what? No. And I think the reason why is it's a book about closure.
Okay.
I mean, I can tell you one thing. The last probably 15 pages is when she comes to the realization of what's going on. Those took me about 2 weeks because it was very much me reaching the closure with my dad, too. So, like, I'm not ashamed to say it. I would draw for 10 minutes, cry for half an hour.
Yeah.
So, when it was all said and done, it felt like I had moved on from everything.
Yeah.
Like, it was a giant kind of boulder
Right.
off of the shoulders. So, yeah, it's actually been wonderful.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for talking to me.
And what if he can fly? Hey, well, so can I. JetBlue or you.